this is. Do you know what that car is there? That green car? No, it's not an MX-5. It is a Eunos. An Eunos Roadster. A Mazda Eunos. Sorry, that was a little bit late, but that wasn't it. It is, of course, an MX-5, but it's not called an MX-5. Look, I think I've made that point clear. It's the same car, but with a different name. I should imagine the Eunos got its name first rather than MX-5. It is known, of course, as Japanese British sports car, in the appropriate British racing green as well. And just like many sports cars, it is cute. It's cute, it's tiny. It's probably not big enough for me to get inside. The styling of this car is, I would say, perfectly balanced. I don't think that's an arguable point. 3 sections, basically, a bonnet and a door, and then the back end all seem to be about the same length. The bonnet looks like it's really long, but it's not really, it's just the car's small. The MX-5 was considered as being kind of an instant classic here in the UK, but yet somehow they all disappeared, because in doing their best to make this a British sports car, they also ensured that it would rot away, which would explain why we have so many Japanese imports in this country. If you know anything about geography, then you'll know that Japan isn't, you know, Great Britain. Not only that, it's a bit warmer. It's a lot more densely populated, but, you know, the people are smaller. I'm not sure I can say that. Anyway, should we have a look around this car? Styling, whether you like it or not, is subjective, but I think most people do. But there's a few little things I'd like to just point out. The front end of this reminds me of some sort of fish, and I cannot think of what it is, but it's definitely there with these funny little eyes that are too far apart. And then we have these fog lamps underneath there that look like they're aftermarket, but they're not. Those were designed in there, and they look kind of 60s. They remind me of a 60s hair salon. The profile is definitely Lotus Elan. And then we have this indicator that looks a bit like a button that you press. What happens when you press the button? What's going to happen? Are you ready? I won't be doing that again, will I? No. The gold wheels are aftermarket, of course, you could probably tell. But being as the car's green, there's something correct about having gold wheels. Even if the gold doesn't match front to back. Now here's a curious thing, this door handle, look at that. Normally you grab hold of a handle and you pull it out, and they're designed so that they feel purposeful, but that doesn't look like it's been designed to feel purposeful. It looks like it's been designed for a fat man to trap his fingers in. Look at that, look how small that is. Oh, I need a bacon sandwich! But what a delightful handle it is. It's got a nice feel to it, but it just feels so unusual how you do grab hold of that. Maybe I'll try it when I'm actually stood up instead. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, I like that now. The plinth on the Japanese car is different, as you might know. But if you don't, now you do. Into the boot! I've got to speak a bit louder because there's some angle grinding going on. But it's not a big boot. You may have witnessed me climb into a boot in the past, and I would say I'm not even going to attempt this one. But I am. I'm not really. That really would be completely stupid, wouldn't it? It'd be beyond my level of stupidity. It'd be going to a place where I've never been to before, and I don't fancy going to. Here's an interesting thing. The battery in the boot there, taking up quite a lot of the boot. People do have a habit of not strapping their batteries down, but it moves around, and then of course you get dents from the inside out by the battery clonking on the inside of the wing. Makes an interesting effect, doesn't it? Overall, this car does have quite a few marks and bits like that everywhere, you know, and paint blemishes like that. Can we see that? I can now. And then obviously fading from the sun as well. But I'm not reviewing a new car. This is an old car that's 32 years old with its original paint, so it deserves a couple of things like that, and if it's not got them, it makes it less interesting somehow. Underneath the bonnet, we have an engine, and it looks bigger than it is. It is only a 1.6, but because it's longitudinal, it appears to be bigger. Why is that? What's going on? And has this car any modifications? And how well has it been looked after? Maybe I should just ask Carl about that.
Hi, I'm Catl. This is my MX-5. You may know me from such videos as Paul roasting my borer, but today we're here to talk about the MX-5. So it's a 1990 import, 1.6 litre. It makes 115 horsepower. You can quite clearly see that it's had a bit of work done to it. It's got a bigger radiator in it. It's got a ARC, arc intake chamber. The AFM has been propped up and had a pretty crappy air filter put on it. Some HT leads, heat wrapped manifold and full exhaust system. We have a washer bottle relocator. There's a few other bits such as light and flywheel. It's the cam angle sensor messed with. Obviously, being a British Racing Green model, all the interior used to be tan at one point. It's been taken out, so it's had a fair bit of work done to it, but otherwise it's pretty much standard in terms of still being a naturally aspirated 600 engine. That's all I've got.
Next, I need to climb into this car if I'm going to drive it anywhere. Will I have more success climbing into the driver's seat than I did the boot? I didn't attempt that, did I? Yeah, it's not very tall. It only comes up to just beyond my hip there. But even lower down when I've got my high heels on. So inside the car, there's a bit more room than I first anticipated. It's a little bit low down, so actually climbing down here is a bit awkward when your knees are starting to give up on you. But the headroom is reasonable. Just think how good it would be without the top on. The dash is, well, it's very, very plain. It's very, functional. It's very, actually, it's a bit more rattly than I was expecting, but it just looks functional rather than trying to be clever. These little air vents here remind me of the old kind of 70s air vents that you'd find in a Capri or something. The switch gear, quite a nice tactile feel to it actually. That was a bit clicky. There's got an aircon button. Does it work? There's a question. Well, while we have one big phallic symbol there, we have a tiny little knob to contrast. But what a nice feel that is. Feels... Actually, the handbrake's in the way when you're changing gear. Yes! I can get out too, which is also quite a good thing. The Eunos, or the MX-5, is a strict two-seater because there are only two seats. There's no seat in the back, even a token seat there, a kind of a ledge there. But I don't know, maybe you could keep your puppy up there, or your miniature Alsatian. What, the aftermarket cup holders with quite a sharp edge on there. Quite a good sound. Yeah, it's got a sound of quality. Solidity. Really thought about what they're doing here.
They thought about what they're doing here.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Oh gosh, that.
Yeah.
It turns really quickly, doesn't it?
It does.
What a raspy, aggressive, I'm in a proper sports car kind of sound this is. I'm angry, I want to beat your face off with a limp bit of cauliflower. And we're already warmed up as well, so we can give it a little bit of... What a sound that is. That's quite quick actually.
Second gear out of here, Paul.
clings on very well. Nicely planted on the corner there. I'm not normally a fan of loud cars, but it has that kind of sound that eggs you on to just do something a bit, not silly, but just exciting. It's got a nice torque band to it, definitely there. It really sort of punches through the gears. I don't know if you need to do that, but it feels natural, like you should be flipping the throttle to change down. You don't need to, do you?
No. It drives nicer if you do. Don't be afraid to take it up to 6.5, 7k either.
So I did have a bunch of things I was going to talk about whilst driving this car, because I did a bit of research on Wikipedia, and I'm sure that's correct. But I forgot, he was going rather well, wasn't he? He was enjoying his
DSG farts.
He was enjoying his BMW. And he had the moustache to match. Keep going for the wrong side for the indicator. It's nice and slow. This is how you should drive it. Hello!
Fantastic! So, how have you found driving it?
Do you know, when you stop listening to the sound and making a lot of noise with it, it actually drives like a car, doesn't it, as well?
It does.
The idea of this car is it wasn't supposed to be too quick anyway. And it does feel quicker than I was expecting. It's louder than it was obviously intended. But besides that, as a sports car feel, it is bang on. Absolutely, it's just such an engaging drive. The steering just feels excellent. The gears and basically the way the whole thing's laid out in front of you, and the way you feel sat properly in the middle of the car. It is definitely the kind of car to take over the Morse, I think, really.
So, do you think you would own one of these cars?
Are you offering it?
I'm not offering it. You can have it one day a year.
Right, I'll see you next year then.
You get a lot of people saying, oh, MX-5s are the best cars, but you don't know what it's like until you drive one. You don't know that feeling. I think they just did an amazing job at that.
I think it's a very... Put the windscreen wipers on to indicate. You can tell it's not for a British market.
Do you not think that it makes more sense to have the indicator on the right hand side so you can change gear, down gear going around a corner while you're indicating? When are you ever going to operate the wipers when you're having to down gear? It's just my personal opinion. I think that it makes more sense being on the right hand side. I think the Japanese had it right. You're never going to want to operate your wipers while you're turning a corner and down gearing. You're going to want to turn the corner, indicate and down gear at the same time. It just makes more sense to me, and I think all cars should be like that.
Yeah, I agree actually. It's just it caught me out. In the late 70s, when Great Britain was still Great Britain and we had a car industry, along came Volkswagen with their Golf GTI, and then others followed suit with these new hatchbacks that were quicker and could handle better than your traditional British sports car. But as the years went by, of course, maybe people missed that, and Mazda took up the opportunity by styling a car around the Lotus Elan and brought the British sports car back. But meanwhile, in the UK, all Brits were too busy patriotically buying German cars to consider doing the same thing themselves. So Mazda, the MX-5, was a runaway hit. I'm sure you know the story, but Mazda were fanatical about making this a proper British sports car from the other side of the world. So much so that they didn't want to make it too fast. They wanted it to be perfectly balanced. No stupid quick engines in this. It was designed so the back would break away if it was acting a bit stupid. And not only that, so fanatical they were about it, they even ensured that the thing rotted like a British sports car as well. In conclusion then, the Mazda MX-5 is really good. I knew it was going to be good, but it really does have such a lovely balanced feel about it. I'd say it's as good as the MGF and the MGTF, which, you know, depending on what side of the fence you're on, people will disagree with that. Also, that 1.6 engine is definitely enough. I know they did a 1.8 engine with a bit more torque and a bit more oomph, but I just don't think you need it. And the final thing I'd like to say about this is that is based on what a British sports car was. So two things I've got to consider here. The first thing is, if British sports cars were really as good as that in the 70s, then I'm surprised that they disappeared in the first place, because that is one of the most involved driving cars I've ever been in. Maybe cars were just generally a lot more interesting in the past. That's what I think anyway, but maybe they actually drove better than we all realise. Unless, of course, things like the MGB weren't quite as good as that. It does make me really want to have a go in an MGB to see if it compares to it. How does it compare to Nigel? Well, it's a better drive, it's certainly quicker. But every time I climb in Nigel, that Sinead O'Connor song starts going through my head. Yeah, it's got a sound of quality. Solidity. Yeah, like they've really thought about what they're doing. Oh, fucking hell. Like they've really... That's got the end of the video. That. Like they've really thought about what they're doing here.
Thought about what they're doing here.
Like they've really thought about what they're doing here.
They thought about what they're doing here.
Good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
Cup of tea.
Tea, yeah.